Now this is to show you how to import data from a GPS receiver to QGIS and convert it to shapefiles. For the most part, when we are collecting data in GIS, we get it from three sources. We collect the raw data ourselves with something like a GPS, a little device we walk around in the field with, records X and Y and sometimes Z coordinates. Or we digitize from an aerial photograph, or we get data that someone else has already digitized for us. They've already collected the coordinates. And so I'm going to show you here the simple way to use some plugins with QGIS to download data. Now, I talked about plugins before in QGIS, and you manage and install these plugins and make sure then that they're connected. So there's two. There's a GPS tool here that you want to make sure is turned on, and then there's actually an existing in the vector layers a GPS set of tools, and we'll use both of those for various things. Right now we're just going to concentrate on this GPS tool, but first things first, you have to actually go out and use your device to collect a route. So I turned on my GPS to record a track and walked along a route in my neighborhood. I then have to save that track. So it's the current track, and I save it track. I name it something. In this case, I named it test. Now once I have that, there's a cable, and most GPSs have something like this provision to record points or lines and then to save or name them from the current. So I'll call these routes or tracks or various things, and the points they'll call waypoints. So I've done that for an example here. And so the next thing then I want to do, is to download those data. So there's a cable from my receiver that I plug into the back and then plug into my computer. It's a USB cable, a micro USB, and most have something like that. And when I do that, then it opens or mounts a drive here, in this case the Garmin drive. And in my Garmin drive I have various files, so I can look around at the files that I might have. And in this case I saved the data into a track, and these go into this GPX, or this GIS exchange format that's a GPX. And so my track test.gpx I saved on my computer, and so I will want to make sure I know where that is and have access to that. Now once I've connected my Garmin after, or my GPS, in this case it's a Garmin, after I've collected the data, then in QGIS, this is version 2, I can go to Vector, go to GPS, and open the GPS tools. Again, those are all single left clicks. And it'll open this GPS tool where I can do various things. In this case, I'm going to load a GPX file and I have to browse to it. So I'll click on this browse button and I'll navigate to my GPX that's been here loaded because I plugged it in, my Garmin files, and I navigate to the GPX, and I'll get that track.test and open that. So I'll just highlight it with a left click and then open it with a left click of the mouse and say OK. In this case I'm only going to have tracks, but I can load all three, and then it loads those tracks. Now this coloration at the start isn't very good, so you really can't see it, but I'll go ahead here and change the color. Okay, so I'll go to the layer properties and I'm going to change the color to a yellow. Right, and I can make it thicker if I wanted it to really stand out. Now you got to be careful because these GPX files are always in WGS84, and I have on the fly coordinate transformation that knows that this data layer is a UTM, so it'll project this from the geographic coordinates into these UTM coordinates because I had that set. So I can see here then, if I zoom in, the area I walked around. Now this is a recreational grade GPS, and so although I walked along more or less the middle of the street, it doesn't record that. I'm lucky if I'm within 3 meters or about 10 feet of my known location with this kind of data that I'm collecting. But nonetheless, it gives me a pretty good idea of where I'm at, and I could have walked more slowly or started averaging and got individual points. And so you can see that within the street width, it does a pretty good job of showing where I'm at. Now these are GPX files, and it's just loading it and displaying it off the Garmin. I haven't saved it anywhere. So if I want to save this, I can right-click on this and save as, go left-click, and as a shapefile. Then I can browse to a location, wherever I want to put the data. And in this case, I'm just going to pick some location, and then I can name it. Okay, so it'll save it as a shapefile. And I'm going just to use the WGS84 layer CRS system, so I can go ahead and change this at this time, but I'll project that later. And now I have this vector file exported and saved. So simple as that.